AAC to hold a long-awaited meeting on the future of amenity rates. The county to pay $277 million to reimburse the villages for building the roads. SECO chair offers a blunt assessment of the future of our energy here in the villages. Suspect arrested in theft at a construction site here in the villages. A former local police chief joins community watch here in the villages. An adult child was arrested after a crazy battle over coffee in the villages. ICE puts a hold on an unlicensed Mexican driver. A Summerfield man dies at the scene of a crash on Highway 301. A convicted sex offender arrested on a DUI in his golf cart in the villages. A suspect was captured and arrested after fleeing a crash in the roundabout in the villages. A woman who huffed dust off a duster was arrested at Winn-Dixie. CDD4 in the villages must start sweeping streets or face fines. Renter in a BMW accused of firing gun in a road rage case in the villages. How many holes in ones of golf do we get this week? Letters to the editor. This and more coming up. This week's news is brought to you by my YouTube and Patreon members. Okay, everybody, we got a couple of updates. Let's try to get them out of the way. I hope I got them all this week. Sometimes I miss one. There's a lot of news. An 83-year-old villager has been ordered into anger management after a domestic quarrel last year. David Lawrence Carroll of the village of Pennycamp has been allowed to enter into a pre-trial intervention contract which requires him to attend an 8-hour anger management class and not to possess or consume alcohol during the duration of the 6-month contract, according to the document on file in Sumter County Court. He will have to submit a random screening. If he completes the terms of the contract, the charge of battery will be dropped. The Pittsburgh, PA native was taken into custody November 27th after Sumter County Sheriff's deputies were summoned to investigate a domestic battery complaint. The woman said Carroll shoved her down on the floor after she got into his face. According to the arrest report, in the fall, the woman hit her head on the door frame. A third person witnessed the altercation. That ought to jot your memory for those of you that's been following. And I think we got one more. Oh, this is the dentist. Remember the dentist that beat the guy with a driver club out of his golf bag? And they arrested him. And he said that he should have been exempt from being arrested because he was using a stand-the-ground law in Florida, and they should not have arrested him. Here's an update on that. There's also a video on this one, and I'll put it on for my members only. A local dentist claiming self-defense has been vindicated in a golf course altercation. Eddie Orbit, who practices dentistry in Leesburg, was arrested in 2023 after the altercation on a golf course at Harbor Hills and Lady Lake, where he has lived for many years. Justice was finally served in the case earlier this month when Judge Heidi Davis dismissed the felony charge of aggravated battery Orbig had been facing. In an interview at his dental office on Monday in Leesburg, the 54-year-old said he is grateful that his year-and-a-half nightmare is finally over. Orbig served in the U.S. Navy for 5 years and earned a scholarship to study dentistry. He graduated from the University of Florida and heard about a practice for sale by an older dentist in Leesburg. He traveled to Leesburg to meet with the older dentist, who was somewhat particular about selling his practice. Eventually, Orbig won him over. Orbig's office at 602 Lee Street in Leesburg is the same office owned by the previous dentist. However, it has been thoroughly modernized. It even has some personal touches like a small indoor pond with fish. Orbig and his wife has 3 children, 2 in college and a teen still at home. Orbig admits he feared it was all slipping away at the darkest hours of the accusations against him. "We are a family of faith," he said. "That is what pulled us through." However, Orbig's legal team went to work as soon as they found cracks in Sybig's story. Sybig's wife, who had initially called 911, also began facing scrutiny when her story didn't quite add up. She claimed that Orbig and his son had been antagonizing them and said her husband doesn't take kindly to that harassment. The initial arrest report suggested that Sybig suffered numerous injuries, including 5 fractured ribs, concussion, a traumatic brain injury. However, it appears it was Sybig, who is a psychiatrist, who self-diagnosed his injuries. When Sybig got to the hospital, he got into a verbal confrontation with his roommate. When an x-ray failed to document the broken ribs, Sybig reportedly ordered a doctor to feel his ribs to confirm they were fractured. The court does not find Dr. Sybig's testimony regarding the nature and extent of his injuries to be credible. Judge Davis wrote in her order granting the motion of dismissal. In fact, she concluded that Dr. Sybig's injuries were likely caused by his fall onto the concrete. The judge agreed with Orbig and granted his attorney's motion to dismiss based upon self-defense immunity. The Sybigs have an offer pending on their home at Harbor Hills, according to the listing on Zillow. In January, they cut the price of the 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home by $35,800. It is now listed at $589,247. I find that fascinating. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for coming for the Village's News Updated in Florida's friendliest hometown. I believe this will be probably the number one news of this week going around. Sumter County's bill for regional roads in the villages of Southern Oaks is coming due. Under a 30-year agreement reached in 2018, the county will pay $277 million to reimburse the villages for building the roads. The reimbursement for most projects is due 5 years after roads are built. County Administrator Bradley Arnold said the prospect of economic development that came about due to the village's expansion motivated the road agreement. He said the local economy needed a boost during the early to mid-2010s. Some money for the reimbursement comes from about $2 million a year in fuel taxes. You don't see the growth in this particular fuel tax, Arnold said, due to the electric cars and more efficient vehicles. The county's 5th and 6th cent fuel tax will expire in 2027, and a referendum will be needed to extend them. Other revenue sources for road projects include general fund, grants, and the Florida Department of Transportation. Impact fees may be used for capacity improvements. The county funded 3 projects, including the Buena Vista Boulevard extension south of State Road 44 and some improvements on Industrial Park Drive and Central Parkway. Reimbursements are due in 15 years for the Bexley Trail Bridge over the Florida Turnpike and Central Parkway construction. The Florida Department of Transportation is paying for a rerouting of US 301 around the city of Coleman and widening between County Road 470 and the Turnpike. Another possible project is realignment and widening of County Road 470 near Sumterville. Extensions of Bexley Trail, McNeil Drive, and Landstone Boulevard also are planned in the villages of Southern Oaks. On the other side of the county, Arnold said the intersection of US 301 and County Road 466 has reached capacity and will need improvements. A roundabout is planned at County Road 466 and 475. Commissioner Jeffrey Bogue said rural roads are deteriorating even though they don't have the traffic volume of urban roads. Our rural roads have been forgotten, he said. I think we're just kicking the can down the road. I have to agree. Arnold said the county has about $1 million a year for road maintenance, although additional funds could be raised through property taxes or a bond issue. Hold on to your ass, cupcakes. They're looking for a reason to raise your property taxes. Let's see what Seco has to say about our pole rentals or whatever they're planning to do. Gerald Anderson, a villager who serves as chairman of the board of trustees, appeared this past week before the CDD2 Board of Supervisors at Savannah Center. He offered a frank and somewhat surprising assessment of the situation. We are in the business of selling electricity, Anderson said. We would love to be out of the light pole business. That kind of comes with the territory. There's a little video that goes along with this. I will post that for my members only. CDD2 supervisors remain skeptical of Anderson's comments. The SECO chair had been invited to the meeting by Supervisor Tom Sweers, who has been researching the pole rental crisis and trying to prod his fellow supervisors into action. I laugh at this. The pole rental crisis. Ooh. Supervisor Jim Conte and Sweers were being fooled by Anderson. SECO is not your friend, Conte warned his fellow supervisors. Similarly, Supervisor Jim Capolone said he fears the residents are going to be hit hard if the CDDs are suddenly handed the daunting responsibility for ownership and maintenance of light poles in Florida's friendliest hometown. He fears it would be very expensive for residents. The residents are going to revolt, Capolone predicted. Sweers made a motion for CDD2 to buy the 82 light poles in its district. His motion was greeted by a long, awkward silence and eventually died for lack of a second. Sweers said he was completely flabbergasted by his fellow supervisors' refusal to act. CDD7, which has been researching a solar option, will meet at 8 a.m. Thursday at Seabreeze Recreation Center. Here's how I see it. If you sell electricity in an area where light poles have to hold the wires up, that's on you. That's your problem, not ours. So the way I see it, they're trying to get us to take over something so they can make more profits. It's just a sneaky way of boosting profits. And also, I don't think the residents should be buying any of this crap. If anything, the developer should buy them poles. Am I wrong? Facing a fine from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the village's Community District 4 has implemented a monthly villa street sweeping program. Street sweeping began early this month and is expected to continue for 5 nights during the first week of each month. The fine was $3,400 and the monthly sweeping cost is $4,500. At a meeting Friday, CDD4 supervisors wondered if other districts are also facing the same issue, but it seems due to the fact that CDD4 is in Marion County, Sumter County apparently provides street sweeping a few times a year. Yeah, I've seen them go through here a couple of times. I've been here 10 years. I can only say I've seen it a couple of times. How come the whole county of Sumter is not required to have a permit? Asked Supervisor Don Deacon. What do you care if you don't live here? He said CDD4 monitors its storm drains with video cameras to ensure that they don't become clogged with debris. And that's why you sweep the streets. But I gotta tell you, most residents here are very, very neat and clean. You don't see cups laying out in the street. You don't see people throwing papers, wads, or anything on the ground. You don't see them open up a car door and dumping out their ashtray all over the road. You just don't see it in the villages. Does it happen? Maybe. Somewhere. Once upon a time, I don't know. But I can tell you, when you drive around the villages, if you've never been here, you're going to find out this community is like super, super neat and clean. Will it be a spot here and there? I'm sure there is. All in all, it's super clean here, and people take pride into that. Matter of fact, a tin can or something laying on the road looks so out of place. You may see it on the golf cart trail more than anywhere because it blows out of the back of a golf cart. They don't notice it. It looks so out of place that it's not unusual to see people will go out of their way to pick it up. No, that's the one thing I don't complain about here, the cleanliness. Okay, here's another update on the amenity fee cap. The financial outlook is as different as night and day for the AAC and PWAC. The AAC will pay off its bonds in 2036. PWAC has a heavy load of debt and just took on the responsibility for additional amenities in Community Development District 12 and Community Development District 13. We have our budget of revenue and expenses and bonds. They have their own budget, revenue, expenses, and bonds, Deacon said. He said the AAC's fund balance is rising at about $11 million per year thanks to increasing amenity rates due to hikes in line with the Consumer Price Index. People are worried about spending $20 million to rebuild Paradise. Paradise is a rec center. We will get that money back in 2 years, Deacon said. He questioned the wisdom of building up a huge bank balance at the expense of residents. Hopefully, we will find a way to get our residents some relief, Deacon said. The AAC could not take a vote in the workshop session, but could do so in an upcoming meeting. What do you think? Leave comments below about this amenity cap that everybody's arguing about. I already know what I think about it. A renter driving a BMW has been accused of firing a gun after deliberately ramming the rear end of a Jeep at a stoplight at Magnolia Plaza in the Villages. Jeffrey Thane Whitmore, 66, is facing charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, leaving the scene of a crash and discharge of a firearm from a vehicle. He was arrested on Valentine's Day after turning himself into at Sumter County Detention Center. Whitmore, who was driving on a Virginia's driver's license and listed an address at a rented patio villa in the Kate Villas in the village of Marsh Bend, was at the wheel of a gray BMW sport utility vehicle on December 5, 2023, when he is accused of deliberately ramming the back of a red Jeep driven by a 38-year-old man, according to the arrest report. The man driving the Jeep said that he had left the 7-Eleven at Magnolia Plaza and pulled up to the nearby stoplight. The BMW deliberately rammed the back of his Jeep, and then BMW sped away. A witness indicated the Jeep had cut in front of the BMW. The driver of the Jeep began following the BMW in an attempt to obtain a license plate number. The BMW driver held up a gun and fired 2 shots in the direction of the Jeep. Man, are you crazy or what? The driver of the Jeep pulled into the parking lot of the nearby Grace Tabernacle. Police officers and EMS responded to the scene. The Jeep driver was highly emotional and having trouble calming down, I'll bet. He said he felt the rounds from the gun pass by his vehicle. Officers went to work and found that the same vehicle had been involved in a road rage incident in 2023 in Sarasota County. In that incident, the driver was brandishing a firearm out of the window. Sarasota County law enforcement had been unable to find the vehicle. Officers went to Whitmore's rented villa in the Villages, but were unable to find him. Police used FaceLogix to assemble a photo lineup of the man driving the Jeep, picked Whitmore out of the lineup. A warrant was issued for his arrest. Following his arrest this past week, he was released after posting a $6,500 bond. See, this is what I'm saying about this bond stuff. He shot 2 rounds of ammunition at the guy. Not up in the air, not in the ground, at the guy. He could have easily killed that guy. $6,000 bond? I think that's like attempted murder. I don't think there should be a bond involved at all. My opinion. 2 New Yorkers on a motorcycle were arrested near Pinellas Plaza in the Villages. An officer was on patrol shortly before 1 p.m. Monday when he noticed 2 motorcycles without license plates, according to the arrest report of the Wildwood Police Department. During a traffic stop, the motorcyclists were identified as 22-year-old Arthur James Robello of Chittenango. Did I say a wordy dirt? At Chittenango, New York, and 25-year-old Joseph Anthony Lorini of the village of St. Charles, and native of Syracuse, New York. Neither man had the proper motorcycle endorsement, and neither of the motorcycles were properly registered. Were they Harleys? Harley people are just known for this stuff. Both men were taken into custody and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. Both were released after posting $300 bond each. I hope the motorcycles were impounded. A suspect was apprehended after flipping a Cadillac Sport utility vehicle in a roundabout in the Villages. Derek DeJean Hamilton Jr., 25 of Leesburg, was driving a white Cadillac Escalade at about 50 to 60 miles per hour when he hit the curb at about 9 p.m. Wednesday in a roundabout on Warm Springs Avenue, according to the Rescue Department and Wildwood Police Department. The luxury SUV flipped and landed on its roof, destroying a yield sign. I'm sorry. The car was demolished, a high-dollar car, and they had to report that he demolished a yield sign. Priorities, I guess. A witness saw Hamilton climb out of the driver's side window carrying a black bag. He ran through a golf course near the village of McClure. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies assisted in the pursuit, and Hamilton was arrested in the 2100 block of Biller Circle in the village of DeSoto. There was a heavy law enforcement presence in the area during the chase. He was found to be in possession of fentanyl and is already on probation in connection with a 2021 case in Alachua County. Hamilton has been classified as a habitual traffic offender. He has had multiple suspensions and revocations of his license. After he was taken into custody, he was transported to the UF Health freestanding emergency room in Brownwood. Once he was medically cleared, he was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center, where he is being held without bond. You can't make this stuff up. The Amenity Authority Committee will hold its long-awaited meeting on the future of amenity rates. The AAC will hold a special workshop at 9 a.m. Tuesday at Savannah Center. The public is invited to attend. The AAC will examine the interlocal agreement that was created in 2007 at the time the AAC was set up. The AAC will take a hard look at its finances as well as a look at the finances of its sister organization to the south, the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. Finally, the AAC will discuss the possibility of restoring a cap or deferral rate on amenities paid by residents. In 2019, the Amenity Authority Committee, which oversees amenities north of County Road 466, and the Project-Wide Committee, which oversees amenities south of County Road 466, both voted to remove the cap on amenity fees. I'd like to know whose bright idea that was. The cap had previously been set at $155 a month. As of January 1, the prevailing rate paid by the purchases of new homes and resales in the villages increased to $199. A former police chief has joined Community Watch in the villages. Eric Luce, who retired last year as a police chief of Fruitland Park, has joined Community Watch as a regional manager. Luce was sworn in as Fruitland Park's police chief in 2019 and prior to that served on the force. He previously served as a police officer in Eustis. Luce will serve as one of the 3 regional managers for Community Watch. He will cover Regional A, which is north of County Road 466. Jack Pike Jr. is assigned to Region B, which spans from County Road 466 to State Road 44. James Lives will head Region C, which stretches south of State Road 44. The regional manager structure began in January and was approved in last year's budget, which has grown to $10 million. I know the chief, Eric, a good guy. When I talked to him, he seemed to be more all business, no horseplay kind of guy. And as a police officer, I can respect that. If it wasn't for Eric, I would never got that ride along at the Fruitland Police Department. So I'll always be indebted to him for getting that lined up for me. He did it, and I appreciate it. Nothing happened that night. It was boring as could be, if you can believe it. But he did it, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to do some more of them, but I haven't heard anything from anybody yet. But Eric, thank you, and welcome to the Community Watch. A suspect has been arrested in connection with the theft of materials at a construction site in the villages. This happens all the time. Shannon Scott Coleman, 39 of Wildwood, was driving an older white pickup at about 3:30 a.m. Thursday on Morse Boulevard when an officer noticed several pieces of plywood loaded in the bed of the truck, according to the arrest report of the Wildwood Police Department. The officer initiated a traffic stop in the village of Bradford. When the truck pulled over, 2 people bolted from the vehicle and fled on foot. I want to laugh at these. Where are you going? They got your truck. Where are you going? Oh, God. Coleman later returned to the truck and admitted he had been traveling in it. No kidding. The officer noticed a string of nails and tools in the pickup's front passenger side compartment. Plywood, drywall, and paint buckets were found in the bed of the truck. The officer was aware there have been frequent construction site thefts in the area. I got a little story after this. Coleman claimed he had retrieved the materials from a dumpster near Central Parkway in the Villages. The officer determined that materials had been taken from the construction sites in the new village of Water's Edge. Coleman was arrested on 3 counts of loitering. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $3,000 bond. Quick story. I was a gate guard, as you guys know, and I happened to be doing the Hillsboro Gate one night. I like the shifts from midnight till 6 in the morning. I like those shifts. Easy going, nobody's around, everybody's in bed. Well, there was a pickup that came in, and he stopped by the guard shack, and he just simply asked where a certain particular address is at, because at that time, this was a brand new neighborhood. They were still building in my neighborhood here. And I told him where to go, and he did. And he came out the other side. Now, when you're in the guard shack, you really don't have a window to your right over here to see somebody coming through the gate. The gate is actually behind you. But I did see the truck go in front of me as he got in front of the guard shack, and it was the same truck. I recognized it. It was a black truck. I can't remember what it was, though. Anyway, and on the back of it was a refrigerator. It looked like maybe a stove or two, and I'm not sure what else. So I immediately called my supervisor, which he immediately called, I think, Sumter County Sheriff's Department. And then later, I found out the next day, my supervisor came by to check on me, make sure I was at my station. And I asked him about that truck, and he told me, he said, oh, yeah. He said, they had the address because our cameras got a picture of the license plate that they used to get the address. And they said he was parked in the driveway, and they were unloading the refrigerator and stuff in the guy's garage, and they arrested him right there on the spot. So this is the kind of things that happens in a new area consistently. A resident of Villages was arrested after a 911 calls were placed from city fire. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies responded at about 7:30 p.m. Tuesday at city fire at Lake Sumter Landing. Patrons at the establishment reported that a male patron had been behaving in a suspicious manner, according to the arrest report. It was feared he might have a concealed firearm. A pedestrian near city fire told deputies that the man approached her aggressively and appeared visibly angry. The man bumped the pedestrian as he passed by, the report said. The man, later identified as 42-year-old Matthew Stephen Sabuk of the village of Buttonwood, returned to city fire. But as he was walking toward the establishment, he spotted a squad car and attempted to change directions, walking away at a rapid pace. When a deputy approached Sabuk, he put his hands into his pockets, and the deputy took action out of concern that Sabuk might have a concealed weapon. The deputy attempted to detain Sabuk, who stands 6 feet tall and weighs 200 pounds. Sabuk made an aggressive maneuver and tried to pull away from the deputy. After a brief struggle, Sabuk was taken into custody. Sabuk was arrested on charge of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $1,000 bond. An adult child was arrested after a crazy battle over coffee in the Villages. Heather Michelle Kaiser, 30, is facing a charge of battery following a fracas Sunday morning at a home in the village of Buttonwood. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies were called at about 8 a.m. to the home after Kaiser went crazy when a woman in the home was making a cup of coffee for her husband, according to the arrest report. The report did not identify the relationship between Kaiser and the other woman and her husband, but noted it was a domestic situation. Kaiser picked up the cup of coffee and threw it at the man. The coffee spilled all over the kitchen table and onto the floor. Kaiser became violent and began to yell. Kaiser picked up the bottle of hand soap and threw it at the woman. Kaiser then went into her room at the home, the report said. When deputies arrived at the home, the floor was still sticky from the spilled coffee and the coffee mug was on the floor. Kaiser was taken into custody and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. A bond was set at $500. A woman who admitted huffing dust off duster was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence at Winn-Dixie at Pinellas Plaza in the Villages. What the hell's that? These people will suck up anything, won't they? Erin Ellen Parker, 44 of Grand Island, was seen at about 7:30 p.m. Wednesday stumbling to her 2024 Nissan Rogue in the parking lot of the grocery store, according to the arrest report from Sumter County Sheriff's Department. A Wildwood police officer pulled up next to the Nissan Rogue and noticed that Parker had suffered a facial injury near her bottom lip and her hand was wrapped in a bandage. The officer asked Parker if she was okay. Parker said she was heading home and admitted she had been huffing, a term used for the practice of inhaling a household substance to experience a high. The officer spotted several cans of dust-off duster in Parker's vehicle. I've never heard of this. A sheriff's deputy who is a certified drug recognition expert was summoned to the scene. The deputy confirmed that Parker appeared to be under the influence. Parker admitted she has taken Zoloft, Klonopin, Losartan, and statins earlier in the day to treat her depression, anxiety, blood pressure, and cholesterol. And she also huffs dust, whatever that is. She struggled through field sobriety exercises and consented to a blood test. Prior to towing her vehicle, an inventory turned up 19 cans of dust-off duster. 19 cans! Parker was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence. She was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center without bond due to her already being on probation. An unlicensed driver from Guatemala was nabbed at an entrance to the villages. Juan Daniel Garcia Perez, 24, of Lady Lake, was driving a red Toyota at 5:21 p.m. Thursday when he was pulled over at County Road 466A and Canal Street, according to the arrest report from Sumter County police officer. The deputy noticed that Garcia Perez was wearing work clothes and he appeared to have just gotten off of work, showing he is gainfully employed and a resident of the state of Florida. However, Garcia Perez could not produce any type of documentation such as a tourist visa or passport. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a motor vehicle license. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $150 bond. A Summerfield man had a hold placed on him by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement after being arrested for driving without a valid license. A deputy conducted a random check on the tag of a black Volkswagen passenger vehicle at 5:54 p.m. Wednesday, according to an arrest report from Sumter County Sheriff's Office. Inquiry revealed that the registered owner of the vehicle did not have a valid license. The deputy was able to see 26-year-old Alex Frias Nieves driving the vehicle, and he matched the description of the registered owner. So the deputy conducted an investigative traffic stop and met with him. He explained the purpose of the stop and asked Frias for his license due to him matching the owner's description, the report said. Frias advised that he did not have a license, but instead provided his Mexican passport. The deputy ran his name through the enforcement database and confirmed that he did not have a license issued to him. The native of Mexico was subsequently arrested and charged with no valid license, never had one issued. He was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center and will be turned over to ICE. A homeowner in the villages blasted as a nuisance neighbor is facing $16,000 in fines in a deed compliance case. However, a neighbor who has logged many complaints about the home at 3357 Fountainhead Avenue in the village of Collier claims the homeowner doesn't care and the fines will continue to add up. Bradley Krause, who lives at 3351 Fountainhead Avenue, took his concerns Thursday afternoon before the Community Development District 10 Board of Supervisors at the meeting at Seabreeze Recreation Center. Krause said he has had to repeatedly call community standards to report tall weeds growing at his home, which is owned by Michael and Mary Lou Maston. The weeds are cut down after a visit by community standards, but grow right back again. He's a nuisance neighbor, Krause said. It's an ongoing problem. The Maston home was the subject of deed-compliant case in 2024 after it was discovered an application for the landscaping had never been filed for review by the Architectural Review Committee. The Mastons have indicated to community standards that the landscaping was already in place when they bought the home in 2017 for $320,000. Makes no difference. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You buy a home, you better be deed compliant, because once you move in, anything that's wrong in that house, you will pay to have it fixed. Last year, the Mastons were given 45 days to file the application and have it approved by the ARC. They never did so and are currently racking up $50 a day fines. Krause said the board needs to do something to get some action at the neighboring property. I would like to see some enforcement. Money is not getting his attention, Krause said. Well, I will say this. I laugh, but seriously, when it comes to the ARC getting something done, they don't play games. So if the community development district is working with the ARC on this problem, I would venture to say something will get done sooner or later, or that 16 grand will get tacked to his property taxes, and then he ain't gonna like it. A convicted sex offender was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence while at the wheel of a golf cart in the Villages. James Lee Ballard, 58, who lives at 2618 Botello Avenue in the village of Alhambra, was driving a golf cart at about 9:30 p.m. Saturday westbound on El Camino Real. That's a no-no. A road where golf carts are not allowed to travel, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. When his golf cart was pulled over, Ballard was apologetic and said he was simply trying to get home. He provided a deputy with his Florida identification card. It appeared he had been drinking. He struggled through field sobriety exercises. He refused to provide a breath sample. He was previously convicted of DUI in 2021 in Marion County. Ballard was arrested in 2019 in Alachua County after molesting a young boy who was in his Bible studies class. Sick individuals. Ballard was accused of having oral sex with the boy. He was younger than 12 at the time. Ballard had worked as a substitute teacher and health clinic assistant for the Marion County School Board. Ballard was convicted of 2 counts of lewd and lascivious conduct. A Summerfield man died Sunday morning at the scene of a crash on US 301. The 53-year-old man had been driving a Ford Escape at 8:45 a.m. southbound on US Highway 301 north of Southeast 147th Street near the U.S. Post Office when a 78-year-old Summerfield man driving a white Hyundai Elantra made a left turn in front of him, according to the accident report from the Florida Highway Patrol. The front of the Ford Escape struck the right rear corner of the Hyundai Elantra, which then collided with a tree. The tree fell on top of the Ford Escape. The 53-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. The 78-year-old refused EMS transportation to a hospital. And that's all we have on that report. So sad. 301 is a road that is becoming just a traffic nightmare because people, the construction companies and dump trucks and things like that, are all going down to the new area using 301 most of the time. So it's just horrendous with traffic. An Orlando man was arrested when he was caught driving without a license in a vehicle. He failed to register 4 days after buying it. An officer responded to the intersection of Main Street and Kentucky Avenue regarding a traffic stop at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, according to the arrest report from the Wildwood Police Department. The initial traffic stop on a tan 1998 Mazda Protege was due to the registered owner having a suspended license. When an officer approached the driver, later identified as 29-year-old Brian Roberto Rodriguez Perez, he looked similar to the registered owner but stated he did not have a license. He instead handed over an ID from Mexico, the report said. The officer also noticed the smell of marijuana coming from the vehicle and saw a green grinder in plain view, the report said. Another officer arrived at the scene and spoke to Rodriguez Perez, who admitted he did not have a Florida license and had never been issued one by any state in the U.S. He had a driver's license in Mexico, but had been working in Florida for the last 4 years, he said. We don't know if any of that's true. A probable cause search of the vehicle yielded a green grinder in plain sight containing a greeny leafy substance indicative of marijuana, a pack of raw rolling papers, and a Florida certificate of title for the vehicle. The title was signed by a listed owner on the seller signature line of the vehicle sales section. However, the date of sale and the buyer's information was left blank. The officer asked Rodriguez Perez had recently bought the vehicle, to which he responded he bought the vehicle 4 days prior, the report said. Rodriguez Perez was subsequently arrested on charges of operating a motor vehicle without a license and failure to register a motor vehicle. The native of Mexico was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $300 bond. A man and a woman were arrested with drugs after a traffic stop in the Villages. William Joel Anholt, 39, of Lady Lake, was driving a silver Honda Element at about 7 p.m. Sunday on North Morse Boulevard when a traffic stop was initiated at the entrance of the village of Hacienda East, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. A check revealed that Anholt has had multiple suspensions of his driver's license. He was found to be in possession of methamphetamine, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. A passenger, 46-year-old Brittany Suzanne Johansson of Lady Lake, who is the registered owner of the vehicle, was also found to be in possession of methamphetamine, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. Johansson, who had run up a $1,600 water bill in 2022 and illegally turned the tap back on, was also arrested with drugs in 2021. Both were taken into custody on multiple charges and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. Apparently no bond. Okay, let's see how many holes in ones of golf we got. Looks like 4. Cammie McLaughlin celebrated after getting a hole-in-one while visiting the Villages. She got a hole-in-one on January 28th at hole number 8 at Live Oak Pitch and Putt at 88 yards with an 8-iron. She is the daughter of Cindy and Kurt Hartman of the Village of St. John's. She was visiting from Brighton, Michigan. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Cammie. Jim and Donna Vaccaro of the Village of Della Vista West were playing the Briarwood Executive Golf Course on Thursday, February 13th, when they both got holes-in-ones on 2 different holes. Well, what's the odds of that happening? Donna got her hole-in-one on hole number 4, and Jim got his lucky ace at hole number 5. Makes for a fun day of golfing, said Jim. It sure does. Both of you, congratulations on your holes-in-one, Jim and Donna. A Village of Finney woman got a hole-in-one February 13th at the Finney Putt and Play. Shauna Coubet got the lucky ace at hole number 7 on the Sunfish course with her husband bearing witness. She splits her time between the Villages and Indiana. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Shauna. Tell everybody back in Indiana I said hi. A villager was happy and shocked to hit her first hole-in-one Wednesday at hole number 4 of the Longleaf Executive Golf Course. Sandra Schlett thought the ball rolled off the backside of the green when it disappeared. While searching for the ball, her girlfriend found it in the cup. I was so happy and shocked. Shocked in a good way. Congratulations on your hole-in-one, Sandra. Let's do a couple letters to the editor. To the editor, the reason we bought in the Villages years ago is because we knew our amenity fees would be capped at $155 a month. As we get older, our Social Security does not go up that much, and by them raising the amenity fees, it's a hardship on the people on the north side. Shame, shame on the Villages. That's sent in by Virginia DeStasso from the historic side of the Villages. Thanks, Virginia, for your letter. To the editor, when I first read the article regarding the removal of these people from the gates, I began to wonder about a couple of things. First, what was the original intent for staffing in the first place, and what has changed for the initiative to date? Have we not enough people in any of the given villages to warrant this need? Is this a cost-saving endeavor? And if it is the case, how much does this change in over time to date? Will there be a payback to the amenities charged to the villages that will no longer have gate personnel? Personally, I feel that the need for these people in those positions is now needed more than ever to increase overall security and aid in giving assistance and directions when called upon. The cost to the villages and all the people that live here knows and relies on someone being there just in case. We have come to expect this person being there, and their absence will leave a large hole in the look and feel of the villages. It's the little things that add up to the entire bigger feeling here. That's sent in by Ivan Simmons from the village of Collier. Well, thanks, Ivan. My only thing about it, here's just my simple comment about the gate guards. They removed a lot of the gate guards from different gates, and I don't know if it's all of them or just strategically some of them, but they generally pulled the ones out on the midnight to 6 in the morning shift, the night shift. That's what one I worked on. My experience with working the night shift, and I worked, I think, every gate other than anything south of 44, because I worked for them when south of 44 did not exist. But I worked at all of them. And I can tell you, the midnight to 6 in the morning shift, there's nothing going on. There's nobody around. I don't know how they work it with the emergency vehicles, because we were trained to keep our eyes open for the flashing lights, because you realize after, I think it's 10 o'clock at night, they don't use sirens around here. They can't. So you have to look for that flashing light. And when you see it, you automatically open the I believe it was the visitor side of the gate. That way, and they all knew it, that we were all trained with this. So if they turned your corner, because you don't know where they're going to go, but if they turned your corner to come in, they immediately hit that visitor's gate. But I also know that midnight to 6 in the morning, there's nothing going on. So I don't see a problem with it myself. Okay, I believe that's going to be the news this week. With that being said, all my news, I dedicate this news and all my news to my members, my Patreon members and my YouTube members. And with that, I give them all the thanks in the world, because without them, I probably couldn't do this. I don't feel like that I deserve their support, but I sure am glad that I do have it. And if you'd like to support the channel in any way, the way I prefer is Patreon. Go to Patreon, and for as little as $2, it goes 2, 5, 10, 15, and 25. But you can get on there for $2. Everybody gets the same thing. I don't divide anybody up anymore like I used to. It's too much work. And you'll get all the benefits of being a Patreon. One is you're going to get an invitation for my members only Discord. Everybody on my Discord is a member. Nobody else gets on there. And then you'll get invitations to some of the things that we do outside of Patreon. We have a members lunch once in a while, and we send the invitations out, what time, where we're at, and all this kind of stuff. And we have a pretty good time doing that, I think. We go to all kinds of places. So with that being said, I'm simply going to say, come and visit us once in a while. Come down to the villages. Rent a house in the summertime where the prices are a lot cheaper, and get to know the lifestyle here. If you can't do a lifestyle visit, that's another good way to do it. I think Sue's out walking Buddy right now. I'm taking advantage of the quietness around here without Buddy barking in the background, getting some of this done. So with that being said, I'm just going to say, I hope you have a great day. Be alert, stay safe, be aware, and keep your health, because at the end, that's really all you got.
And don't leave your key in that golf cart.
Oh, don't leave your keys in the golf cart. Some might say it's not very smart. If you walk away and hear your engine start, just turn around and wave goodbye to your golf cart, to your golf cart. Oh, where's my golf cart?